Okay, good afternoon. So over the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about export assistance programs for manufacturers. We'll try and be efficient with our time, and we've got several presenters up here that have given their time to join us and talk about some of the programs and assistance they provide to Oklahoma companies. First is Jesse Garcia with Oklahoma Department of Commerce. And give me specifically what division you work in.
International Trade and Investment.
International Trade and Investment. And we have Anthony Cambas from Stillwater at the West Watkins Center for International Trade and Development, International Trade Center. Ashley Wilson with the Department of Commerce, U.S. Commercial Service, U.S. Export Assistance Center. Did I get it all? Okay, there we go. Yeah. And then lastly, we have a real deal manufacturer, Mike Mahorney with DDB Unlimited, and he's going to give kind of an overview of their company and the type of export assistance that they've sought out from the various service providers here in Oklahoma. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about a program called ExporTech. It's a joint partnership between the MEPs, which is also in Oklahoma, we call it the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance, NIST, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, U.S. Commercial Service, and of course the Alliance. What is ExporTech? Well, it's a structured format that allows a company to go through over a 3-month process, be able to develop an initiative and a strategy with very tactical pieces to help develop their export markets. At the end of the program, you end up with a written plan with executable action items. And that plan is actually vetted in the final and third session by experienced exporters. So you get real-time feedback on what they think might be the vulnerabilities and what might be the penetration points for your export plan. Like I said, it's 3 sessions over 12 weeks. The first session is to discuss best practices and general strategy for export marketing. If you would, please raise your hand if you are a current exporter, if your company does any export development. Yeah? Okay, so the rest of you are getting new into the export market. So the first session we'll be talking about export strategy, and through that we'll begin to learn and understand what gaps exist within the attendees of the ExporTech training. And so then we prescribe in session 2 specific speakers and specific subjects that help address those knowledge gaps in international trade. And then in the third and final session, you will actually present your export plan to the panelist. Like I said, it's a structured process, very efficient. It's been proven to work in 30 states so far. It's been deployed in 30 different states, and I think they've had, almost 200 different ExporTech sessions. You work with the C-suite of other companies. So you'll be in there with about between 4 and 8 companies, and most of them bring at least 2 representatives from their executive level to help go through the process, because this is the type of training information that's good to have run all the way through the top of the org chart, all the way through the bottom. Okay, so yeah, almost 700 companies have gone through, and they've done about 127, I don't know if that's current as of this year, different ExporTech programs throughout the United States. The Manufacturing Alliance contracted with me actually to facilitate the ExporTech, and this year, this last session was in Stillwater. It rotates through various parts of the state. We had 6 companies go through the program, and at the end of this month they'll be doing the third and final session presenting their export plans. That's enough about ExporTech, but if you have any other questions, feel free to grab me after this session. But now I'm going to pass the microphone to Mike, and you can take the stage. In fact, I'll take this clip off and I'll let you have that so they pick up the audio for the video.
We should have practiced this part. Okay. Yes. So, my name is Mike Mahorney. Thank you all first for coming and sitting through this painfully. So, who is DDB Unlimited? So, DDB Unlimited is a manufacturer and innovator in the design industry and manufacturer of enclosures for various different industries in Wynnewood, and we also have facilities in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma. DDB Unlimited offers a broad selection of high quality, option-rich outdoor enclosure solutions that can be customized to suit any application. DDB is a privately owned and carries a 9001-2008 certification. Some of the markets or some of our customers are in the traffic industry. So along street lights you may see enclosures next to the street light or stoplight, and that could be our enclosure. In the telecom industry, we do a lot of cellular phone applications at the base of a tower. So anything that would house electronics, 19 or 23-inch racking, we're at NEMA 3, and we produce all the way up to NEMA 4X enclosures. We also are in the rail enclosure business, also in the oil field monitoring. Just a few of our products, left and right, are smaller enclosures that would mount on pole side. Center top is a cow or a communications on wheels assembly with our two enclosures there, the cream colored. And then our enclosures bottom left are stationed at a satellite facility for a fairly well-known company in the security business. Also a 3OD, so multi-rich enclosures with alarm switches, possibly lighting, so on and so forth. So our reasons for attending ExporTech were, as you see here. Basically, we needed to develop a plan to do export. We had done export. It was, as Jim said earlier, in spite of ourselves and not necessarily to benefit the company. We did a lot of export that cost us money, and the last thing you want to do is cost your business money. It's just not where we're headed, and we found out quickly that we needed to know. We needed more education, we needed a plan, we needed to develop policies and best practices. We needed to understand the risks, and we needed to mitigate those risks. We needed to find out what other companies were doing, and we needed resources for all of those things, and ExporTech provided just exactly that. So, as Justin spoke about the plan, we put together this kind of statement, if you will. Our plan is to take our high quality enclosure products and customer driven processes and intentionally apply them to developing new foreign business opportunities in both Canada and in Mexico. So as neighboring countries, the easiest to export to, and also we have had distribution channels as well as some opportunities there that we could build and establish and grow off of. Part of the plan said, well, why would you choose these countries? And so part of our plan said, well, we have just what I mentioned prior, telecom industries. We provide those locations in Canada and Mexico, both oil companies. And why are we picking those locations? A, they're closest to us. That was a good opportunity for us. Take advantage of the opportunities that were already there. Products that were currently in use in the country was a big factor, and existing customer and vendor relations. So one of the things that we developed in our plan was that we should use distributors that already have facilities and locations and try to expand those. It worked out very well for us. Just a couple more of our products. And this was all part of the slide presentation, if you will, prior to and in ExporTech. So I kind of stole some scenes here. Some more of the questions were, how will we go to market? And so, as I explained, we will use both distributors and vendors that we already currently have. What sales channels would be used? And distributors are obviously versed and well known in some of those areas. So if you're already using someone in that country, by all means use them as a tool. Why did we select the channels? We kind of already touched on that, covered that. What does this channel partner need for success? And those were questions that we outlined and covered. And some of those questions were technical expertise. So although your sales team may already have training, those sales teams or distribution channels may need training in that area. And so that's something to consider as part of your plan if you're going to export. Inventory. So obviously you may have inventory, but your distributors or those other markets may need inventory to support lead times. and established relationships. So a lot of those folks already have relationships in those markets that would take you years to build, and therefore we want to utilize those. Marketing activities. So some of the things that we hadn't done is we hadn't reached out to countries and our distributors in other countries and asked them to add us to their line cards. Those are easy things to do. If you've already got distributorship in the US, then by all means it's fairly simple and you've already grown some relationship there. Word of mouth, of course, as well as trade shows. So what are DDB's specific marketing activities? Again, trade shows. We went to market with multilingual catalogs as well as splash pages on the internet. So we used primarily to start was a Spanish splash page. We showed huge success there, and so we continued and added a French page as well. And we've of course tracked those through Google tracking. Very easy to do and very, very prosperous for us. So we learned all that, if you will, through the ExporTech program. Translations and so on and so forth on the website. Just kind of a little bit about our action plan. Some of the leads that would take roles in the action plan and really outlined who needed to do what. Of course, you need a good plan to do anything, and that's exactly what we did. So those were some of our leaders and what they were going to do in those areas. We needed to talk about production capability. If you gain more access or more market share, will you be able to support that? And of course, in our facility, we do have plenty of room to support that. We have lots of room for growth. We have 3 facilities, 2 in Wynnewood and 1 in Pauls Valley. One of the questions was that how will you support or how will you secure your information? DDB itself has lots of policies in place. We actually ask customers to sign NDAs if we're going to share anything that would be intellectual property. There are obviously insurance programs, et cetera, but also something very much to be considered. You need to kind of know what the differentiators are for you. What will set you apart from the competition, both locally and in the U.S. So locally, what are their markets? What will set you apart for them? How easy is it for them to use those benefits? One of our claim to fame is a 15-year warranty. Will it be easy for them to use the 15-year warranty? And in this case, it's true. They would. It would be easy for them. What things do you have that other companies may not? Of course, would be a question, and easy to answer. And some of our successes. So in 2013, we actually had 81 shipments to other countries. We had no measurable baseline because we weren't keeping track of that yet. In 2014, we had a 23.5% increase on shipments, and we actually developed a baseline. And then in 2015, we had 117 shipments. You say, well, that's not that much increase, but after ExporTech, we actually saw, so far this year, a 25% increase in revenue to the baseline for DDB Unlimited. Very large. And we still have several months here to go. So, good opportunity, great resources. That's all I have.
Advance to the next slide. I think the slides are all reloaded. So.
Okay.
Actually, you're.
Yeah. I teach like a mix of yoga and Pilates and work at the ballet bar when I put on that kind of microphone, so that was kind of getting me in the boat. So I'm very excited to put that on. You may see me out here doing a downward dog, so that's yoga. But good afternoon. How are you guys doing today? You're good? You guys are awake? I know it's been a long day, last session, so we'll definitely keep this short and sweet. I just want to start and ask, how many of you all are familiar with the U.S. Department of Commerce? When I look at So most people are not familiar. So let me just go ahead and just kind of explain a little bit about what I do. I'm sorry? Oh, yes, with the U.S. Department of Commerce. And Justin kind of gave a list of our organization name. So I'm going to give you everything that we are. U.S. Department of Commerce, International Trade Administration, U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service, actually now Global Markets, and Oklahoma U.S. Export Assistance Center. And there's going to be a quiz that I'm going to ask you guys for all the names afterwards. So very, very long. A lot of times I forget the name. But most important thing is just to remember that we're a part of the federal agency and we're here to assist companies with exporting. So that's going to lead me to the next slide. And let me get this. Thank you. There we go. Okay. So our mission here at the Oklahoma USIAC is to help small and medium-sized companies with exporting. And so for those who aren't familiar, small and medium-sized is 500 employees or less. So it's not that we don't help large companies, we're just focusing to help small and medium-sized companies, since most companies here in the U.S. do fall under that category. So we have offices located in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. We're actually a pretty small agency, so it's 2 people in Oklahoma City and 1 in Tulsa. We are your local link to worldwide commercial service resources and experts. And the reason why I say local link to worldwide commercial service resources is because we have offices located all over the country. I don't know if y'all were familiar with that, but we're located in about 80 countries. So some of the things that we provide assistance with are market research, market entry strategy, shipping and documentation, licensing, finance questions, and just general export information. And I was kind of talking to Liz and some of the people at ODOT before. We don't necessarily have the answer for everything, so that's why we tap into our partner agencies. But anything that's generally export information related, just give me a call, and I can definitely help lead you in the right direction. There we go. So I'm going to move on to just some of the ways that we educate and inform companies about exporting. So we have the Oklahoma International Trade Bulletin. Now, does anyone here receive that bulletin, or is anyone familiar with that? David is He is. He's a member of our district export council, so he's familiar with all of this. So the Oklahoma International Trade Bulletin, that's our monthly newsletter that we put out. So this is for a way for companies to be aware of some of the programs that we offer throughout the state, and then also just export-related articles. And so we also put on 2 basics of exporting workshops throughout the year, and 2 shipping and documentation workshops. We do 2 in Oklahoma City and then 2 in Tulsa. So we have our next ones coming up. Our basics workshop will be next week. That's going to be in Tulsa, and then we'll follow up with one in February in Oklahoma City. And then we have our shipping workshop that'll be November 18th in Tulsa, and then we'll follow up one in Oklahoma City in March. And then we also do our Oklahoma World Trade Conference. This is our major conference that we've done in the state here. I think this will be our 34th year annual World Trade Conference. And so that's held alternately in Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And this year it will be held in Tulsa in April of 2016. So stay tuned for that. And so next I'm just going to talk a little bit about the value of the ExporTech program. So Justin kind of outlined what the ExporTech program is. And so I'm just going to give you some of the highlights of what I've had, my specific experience and what the value is. So the first thing are the presentations and one-on-one meetings with trade resource experts. So it should be experts, not exports. So when companies are participating, they're going to be able to meet with international attorneys, freight forwarders, bankers, service providers such as myself, and Tony and Jesse and Justin, and also companies. And also, so we'll have the presentations and also meeting with those trade resource experts on one-on-one meetings. So you'll be able to kind of outline and identify solutions for the company and ways to formulate an export plan. And so with the ExporTech program, we'll also have assistance and customized solutions provided by coaches, MEPs, trade resource experts during the 3 months and after the program. So this is something that makes ExporTech pretty unique. where it's not just a one-day conference, we're actually doing this over the span of 3 months, and also providing assistance with the companies in between sessions and after the session. So we want to make sure that the company, hopefully they're implementing that export plan and they're successful with their international business. So another highlight of the program is the company presentation of international plan with feedback from panel of experts. So this is for me like a big takeaway with the ExporTech program, because again, we go to conferences sometime and we have a wealth of information, we receive a lot of knowledge, but we just get back to our offices and we're like, okay, what do I do with this? And I think with the ExporTech program and having that actual plan that companies formulate and hopefully being able to implement, I think is a big takeaway with the ExporTech program. And then also getting that feedback from the panel of experts, so there'll be a company there, maybe a couple companies, and then the trade resource experts. So they'll be able to give their comments and suggestions and hopefully be able to see that plan come to fruition. And then the last point I have with the value of the ExporTech program is really quite simple, is networking. I think that's just really the huge takeaway of really any conference or program that anyone's participating in. Just being able to have the ability to meet with all the experts, whether it be the banker, freight forwarder, or the service providers, or even the other companies. I think that's just one of the huge aspects of the ExporTech program. And I also say, just with my specific experience, I've been in commerce for about 12 years. And I really haven't seen a program that's unique like this. Again, just being able to do it over the course of 3 months, being able to have it under the guidance of the MEP, and then also the assistance during and then after, I think is really huge. And I think we were actually the pioneers with the ExporTech program, if I'm not mistaken. So we're definitely not the first, one of the first in the countries to do it. And I think we've done more than any other state. And I've been to conferences just throughout my agency. And people really look to Oklahoma as like a guide and expert as to how to implement the program. So I would say that's been really, really successful here. And just companies that I've talked to have found this to be very beneficial. And I think the big thing is being able to do that export plan and just being able to identify how to enter into the market, identify the countries and market research information, and being able to have that pool of resources available throughout the course of the 3 months. So that's all I have for my point. And I will go ahead and transfer it off to Tony. Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Justin, for inviting me and for this. Okay, thanks for this event. And I know a lot of faces here in the crowd, and some of you don't know me, but I'm Anthony Cambas, the director of the International Trade Center Small Business Development Center at Oklahoma State University. And I'll get Justin to set this up.
I don't know what you just pushed, but
Push some buttons there. So
It's getting progressively worse as we go down.
there you go. But I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. And Ashley did an excellent job.
so just hit the big on the right.
The one on the right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ashley did such an excellent job talking about the benefits of ExporTech and what it means to the companies that I'm just going to be able to only add a couple of extra things because she did an excellent job. But I would say I fully agree. I think the unique thing is that the companies and the participants actually get to sit down with experts and with resources from many different organizations and many different backgrounds all in one place. Usually, from time to time, Jessie, Ashley, myself, and others, as well as the companies themselves that are doing the work on the ground, you may be able to interact with them here and there, but having the opportunity to actually sit down over multiple sessions and work with them as a company, I think is unique, and get that interaction consistently. So, well, here's a picture of our building. Some of you know us. We're on the campus of Oklahoma State University, and Justin was formerly with our center and now directing the incubators with Meridian Tech. So please come visit us when you're still honored to visit Justin as well. West Watkins Center, as many people know, is actually created as to be a building, to be an international trade resource. Former Congressman Wes Watkins, his vision and realization of the importance of exporting to Oklahoma and to the country were kind of inspirational as far as actually creating a building dedicated to providing international trade assistance. So there's been many, I guess, iterations of international trade assistance in this building over the years. Now we're part of the Oklahoma Small Business Development Center Network, which I'll just say a couple things about it. It's a national model of small, medium-sized business assistance, and it's also become an international model. So the SBDC, or Small Business Development Center model, is being used throughout the Western Hemisphere. Mexico, I think, has about 100 SBDCs. Brazil, they have their own name for it, but they use a similar model, and many countries throughout the Americas. International trade centers within small business development centers are unique, or what we call a specialty center. Many people here may have an idea, may be a little bit outdated as to what small business development centers do, but it's not just working with startups and your business plans. Generally, small business development centers in our center would work with existing companies, that which most of the ExporTech participants would be, manufacturers, sophisticated companies that are trying to grow. So generally, the trend in small business development centers around the country, but especially with regard to international trade centers, is to work with more of the growing, the tier 2 type companies, as they call them. So there's all my contact information. Let me show you a little bit about what we do. And I would say definitely, and I feel confident that Jesse and Ashley would both say that there is no real true duplication of services, even though I think people who haven't used the services may assume that. But confidently, I'd say there is no duplication of services. We provide export readiness assessment assistance, trade compliance and logistics assistance, harmonized tariff classification for both compliance reasons, but also to be able to help you conduct market research, and that would also be along the lines of what our other partners here would do. But one thing we can leverage with that is we have a lot of students, grad students, that work at our center. Many of them are from other countries. So we're actually able, currently we have staff from Vietnam, China, or 2 from Vietnam, 1 from the United States, and our staff itself, we now have a person from Mali, Africa, and someone from Ethiopia. So it's a truly international staff. So their insights help me and our center provide better assistance, even when it comes to wondering, how would a consumer in another country perceive a particular product. We're going to tap into that, not just to help us with the research. So really, I'm not going to say A to Z. I'm not going to say a jack of all trades and a master of none. I think in some areas, definitely can be a master, especially probably in the area of customs and international trade compliance issues. But one of the main things that we do is connect people with other resources, such as our partners here, and beyond that. We had a guest speaker yesterday, Attorney Peter Quinter in the back there, who is an example of the kind of network that we have. So people who may have issues with customs, or maybe in the United States or another country, because really there's a process from A to Z between when you get that order and when you get paid. And then even beyond when you get paid, really 5 years later, you could have a government agency saying, well, why did you export that product to this country? You may not have had the proper export license that you needed. You say, well, I didn't know what that was. So we can help you at any of the stages along the way. Also, as I said, one unique thing about the International Trade Centers, Small Business Development Centers, is that we're part of these global networks. And our center itself is involved with a couple of networks beyond the Small Business Development Center network, something called NASBITE, which is an organization that provides international trade education and leads to a Certified Global Business Professional certification. So besides the training and the courses that we can offer, we also tap into the expertise and the knowledge of our partners within these organizations. International Network of Customs Universities, so a global network of universities around the world that provide assistance in the area of customs. International trade and training workshops we put on our own. Yesterday we had an event about what are the changes in Cuba mean as far as companies, which you cannot do. We attend many of our partners' workshops, and we also have, it's different than, I would say, the export basics that U.S. Export Assistance Centers have, but we also have an export basics kind of workshop, and more specialty or technically oriented workshops, such as NAFTA, rules of origin, and how to comply with different free trade agreements, things like that. And we're really flexible, so whatever we have now, we're going to go where the demand is. If we see that there's a need for a particular type of technical or not technical workshop, we can put that together and offer it. So those are some of our services there, and our services are offered, like our partners, at no charge. All you have to do is, we do receive federal funding, so just a form to be filled out, and we can work with companies at all stages. I think one unique thing, and I know that difference with, like, let's say, an incubator program in general, that we would work with a company from birth potentially all the way through maturity, and then continue to help them grow. So just to conclude again, as I said, Ashley did a great job talking about ExporTech and the benefits it provides. I personally had the honor to, I think I've been in 3 or 4 ExporTechs now since I moved to Oklahoma, and the companies that I see here that are participants have really, I wouldn't say changed my perceptions, but I've been very impressed by the quality of the kind of companies here in Oklahoma, the innovation, and coming from an East Coast person and seeing what's really going on in the heartland here. One place you best see that is at ExporTech. I've been amazed, and I think that putting all our resources together, we can help grow Oklahoma's economy and help make our exporters more successful. So I think that's about it. Thank you.
And after Jesse's finished, I think we'll have time for some Q&A, so if you guys have any questions for any panelists, this helps. Jesse.
My name is Jesse Garcia, and I'm with the Oklahoma Department of Commerce, and I am the International Trade Manager. I actually work, one of my colleagues, Liz Tratt, is also here with me today. Basically, our job is similar to that of Ashley and Tony, more so on the Ashley side. What Ashley does is provide services on the federal side, whereas we provide services on the state side. So basically, we assist Oklahoma small, medium-sized enterprises with export services and solutions for increased global market share. We also have an investment side, which basically means we try to recruit international companies to Oklahoma. Our global team is also very small. There's 3 of us. Besides Liz and myself, we have Jennifer Springer, who is the manager for our division, and she actually oversees more of the investment projects. We also have 3 international trade offices, our bread and butter. Basically, these are offices designed to help any company in this room and beyond this room, in the entire state of Oklahoma, to basically take their product or service into those markets or regions. Those offices are located in China, Israel, which also oversees a certain number of markets in that particular region, Middle East region, Northern Africa, and even Eastern Mediterranean. And Mexico City, Mexico. As I will talk about, Mexico is a very key component or key market for a lot of companies in the state and beyond the state of Oklahoma. Mexico is our 2nd largest trading partner, and there are a lot of opportunities to really take away from that besides Canada. Those are the 2 markets any company should consider seeking in terms of being able to export. This is key right here. If there's one reason for you guys, for any company to really start thinking about exporting, nearly 96% of consumers live outside the United States. Think about that. That's a piece of the pie for you guys. From the standpoint, obviously being with the state, these are some general stats about Oklahoma relative to exporting. $6.3 billion for 2014. That ranks us nationally at 39th. We actually have about 3.3 billion total exports to FTAs, free trade agreements, which are very key components. If you take that into the equation, the formula, there are certain advantages, which I won't go into, but there's a lot of advantages with doing business with an FTA. And as you can tell over on the right-hand side, those are top markets as of last year. And again, going back to Canada, Canada will always be number 1. As long as I live, I think Canada will always be number 1. And Mexico primarily the same situation. Some general information, like Ashley was talking about, we also generally serve the small medium-sized markets, or I'm sorry, companies. This is an interesting number. Total of 3,150 companies exported from Oklahoma in 2013. Of that, 84.2% were actually small and medium-sized companies. That says a lot. Now, I can also say that, going to my next slide, that maybe only of that percentage right there, they probably only exported into one market or two markets. So, from our perspective, we would like to see that number grow. That's what we're here for. We're looking to expanding. How can you expand beyond just those two markets? And over to the right, we'll see the top export commodities for the state. And this is what I was talking about. Room for growth. And this is from a national perspective. So less than 1% of America's 30 million companies export. A percentage that is actually lower than other developed nations. And of the U.S. companies that do export, 58% only export to one country. That's the key number right there. So what do you do about that? That's what we're here for. You have all the resources, you have the experts, you have the resources, services to help you do more international business. I'm not really going to talk too much about ExporTech, because Ashley did a great job on that. But this is what I take away from myself. Basically, there are three primary objectives. Number one, basically, you're developing an international business plan. That's the objective of ExporTech. And what a better way to do it over the course of those 3 months. So you are so focused, and you have all the resources in that one room to assist you doing that. And it also allows you to really, even for companies, because I think there's a certain percentage that actually are somewhat export ready, but they really still don't have a key plan in place. And the way I look at that, and I think most companies, those companies would kind of foresee it from this perspective also, it allows them to cross their T's and dot their I's. In other words, all the services are being vetted, provided to you to ensure that you are exporting accordingly, whether it be through federal regulations, customs, finding the right markets. All of that is being provided to you, once again, for this particular program. And as mentioned, it allows you to network with all the necessary key players. So, as Ashley mentioned, you have the freight forwarders, or you have a freight forwarder, you have an international attorney, you have a banker, you have a person that provides information on the market research side, and then you have the three entities here in this room. This is an example of a company that went through the program. And actually, I think this company's worked with us. And I really love this company. Because this is the primary example you guys should take away from this. Anthony Chandler, who's the vice president of Wilco, I think he's been with the company 12 years, if not a little bit less than that. But he previously worked with Halliburton. And so if you think about that, working with Halliburton Global, he definitely understood the mechanics of the importance of doing trade or exporting. So he took this small company and basically just invested himself, as well as taking into account all the necessary ingredients, factors, resources to help the company grow. And these are just some of the quotes that he provided to me, so kind of get the idea here. As a result of that, they began their export growth strategy 2007 through 2011. Exports reached as much as 60% of their business during that cycle. Altogether, export growth helped them pass 55 million to over 150 million by 2012. Now, this is a company that actually is more engaged in the energy sector, oil and gas, so we know what's going on right now with the sector. So as a result, you can see in 2012, several of the energy service companies back in the heyday decided to refocus their efforts on North America, domestic market. But now, as a result of what's going on, he's taking a very different approach. He's saying, hey, we're starting to see our domestic sales consistent or dwindle. Let's look at other markets. Let's focus all our efforts to looking at other potential markets where we're seeing some growth. So, I don't know how many, are there any energy companies here? But that's the way we want to really, my primary objective right now is to really focus, talk to those companies and tell them, hey, don't just focus on the US right now. Focus on other markets because there are so many potential opportunities going back to that 96% number. And fast forward to 2012, as mentioned, several other companies or customers have abandoned North America and now are looking international. Okay, so with that said, this is kind of a breakdown of our services. So international trade consulting. We do a little bit on the market research side, but this is the guy right here, by the way. Justin is the king of market research. So if you ever need anything from that perspective, talk to this guy. He's incredible. International trade resource and services referrals. Again, if you're looking for somebody to help you translate, somebody to help you on how do I get paid? What's the best way for me to ship my product? I've got all this documentation I need to complete. What do I do? If you come to me, I'm not going to give you all the answers to those, but I do know of all the key players, service providers in the state of Oklahoma that can help you. International trade or business seminars and webinars, and market entry services. This is where we excel. We actually, I'm not going to go into this, but going back to the international trade offices, again, that's our bread and butter. We also deal or organize or participate in a certain number of international trade shows per year. Most of those shows are primarily oil and gas related or aerospace. Why is that? Because those are the two largest revenue growers for the state of Oklahoma. Oil and gas is 1/3. Well, it was. Aerospace is the second close behind oil and gas. So that's where we see a lot of our companies trying to engage, do more international business. We generally get anywhere between 6 to 8 companies per show. And these are some of the services that's provided for by the international trade offices. I'm not going to go into every single one, but for the most part, if companies are looking for a distributor, any of these offices can help you with that. What's really neat about that, the search is all vetted. So you really don't have to worry about it. That is one thing I keep hearing from companies is, we just don't know where to start. We don't know where to look to. How do we know we're dealing with a credible company? That's what these guys do. They can help you with that. In the case of Mexico, that's about 50% of the projects that they deal with. So everything from trade shows, certification standards, foreign company diligence. If you're getting inquiries from your website from a potential international customer, but you're not sure, first time, but you're not sure if they're credible, legitimate. If they fit under one of our offices, come to me and we can actually forward that information to them and they can tell you. Sourcing assistance. Sourcing assistance is primarily big in China, of course. But FYI, Mexico can also do the same thing. And what's really neat about Mexico is think about your costs. Again, someone mentioned proximity to market. That's another reason to really focus on Canada and Mexico from that perspective. Okay, the last few things, these are just some of the events coming up for us. So from the, this is our trade shows for next year. Again, if anybody in this room is involved on the oil and gas, aerospace sector, and you're interested in one of these shows, please let me know, and I'll go into details. It's a quote from Anthony, talking about trade shows. This is important. Our international trade rep for Mexico is actually going to be in Oklahoma next week. His name is Luis Dominique. I won't say that. And he actually will be here to meet with companies who's interested in doing business in the market. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, if you have a presence, but if you already have a presence, say you already have a distributor or an agent, but this guy can help you increase that potential to finding more projects for you. And these are some of the services that he can assist you with. If there's any interest, please let me know, and we can, actually Liz is helping me with the agenda, so we can actually fit you in. And lastly, this is something new that we're going to start doing, the webinar series. And our very first one is on the November 4th. And again, it's going to be touching on Mexico, talking about the opportunities for companies that are interested in doing business in the market. And these are some of those talking points that Luis will be making. If you are interested, again, just come up to me. I'll write with my card or talk to Liz. She can help you. And I think with that said, I'm past my time. But if you have any questions, I think this is the Q&A right here. So thank you very much.
Okay, we're getting pretty close. Does anyone actually have any questions at this point for any of the panelists?
Question, you mentioned Canada's our #1 from Oklahoma, will always be in Mexico. Is that just strictly due to geography and shipping, or is it any licensing, other factors?
What are the drivers for Canada being
Canada
our
and
trade partner?
Mexico, the 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's proximity, language, and many other things.
It's one of the most transparent markets, so you don't have as many of the trade barriers, at least up here. It's very transparent, very easy to do business, language. For the most part, we don't have an office, but if you're looking at doing business in Canada, Ashley can help you from that standpoint. Now, with Mexico, it's a little bit, there's a higher level of trade barriers in place. Language, obviously that Mexico is not as transparent. There are certain issues within the government, we all know about that. Mordidas, as they call them in Spanish. But there are ways getting around to that. And that's why we do have an office in Mexico. That's why we have Luis. So he can make it very easy for you. It's about the hand-holding. I call it the hand-holding stage. Helping you from the initial, from the time that you talk to him, meet with him, and helping you through the course of taking your product into the market. Hopefully, if they're looking for a distributor, sign off on that agreement with them. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see.
Okay, I just want to add, of course, NAFTA helps as well because we have, if you qualify your products, then you would pay no tariffs going into Mexico, which makes you more competitive. And beyond that, NAFTA also provides, I would say, institutions to help make sure that you're treated properly, both as an investor and as a company. Whether or not you can always use those mechanisms that exist, that's another story. They are there, and the institutions that are in place with NAFTA can create more certainty for U.S. companies, I would say, too.
Yes, sir.
I also found out that the NAFTA agreement is also with Australia. Same product to Australia with that NAFTA.
I think we have 20 or 21 free trade agreements between the United States and other countries.
Just one note on that real quick. I don't know if you want to say something. That in a prior life, I was working with U.S. Customs and helped to verify the eligibility for those programs, and other countries do the same thing. Just one rule of thumb, all those are great things to use and they make you more competitive, but be careful not to confuse that all the rules for qualifying are the same in all the agreements, because in most cases they could probably be different. And a lot of companies commonly make the assumption, you mentioned NAFTA together, they are distinct. Maybe this Trans-Pacific Partnership may harmonize between Australia and other countries more, but they do have their own distinct rules. So sometimes you see people confuse that.
Yeah, so just to kind of wrap it up, whether you've got questions concerning international marketing, trade finance, market intelligence, global logistics, supply chain, or just global business management. Of course, you have ExporTech program, which you've heard quite a few times today. Then also, all the panelists here, well, with the exception of, you don't really care to get calls about exporting, but
I would actually.
all the service providers on the panel, of course, provide their services free of charge. It's at no cost to Oklahoma companies, so please utilize their services. Any other questions before we wrap up the session?
Do other states have a comparable program?
I believe they do, but I couldn't tell you firsthand. Tony, do you know of other states that have comparable?
Well, you may want to
Well,
first.
for us, yes, we have offices, like I mentioned, all over the world, and we have a pretty much a presence in most major cities throughout the U.S. So we do, on the federal side.
And I do have experience working in similar fields in Florida and Illinois, and also Florida and Illinois have similar. You find it very common where you have the state equivalent of a Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Export Assistance Centers, and the Small Business Development Centers being three of the resources. Some states have more. So in those three states that I've worked, Florida, Illinois, and Oklahoma, we do have similar interaction between us service providers.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for attending. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation and definitely the conference today. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.